have you booked your accommodation in Paris just yet?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Menace and the Monk. After the massacre at Anfield, Liverpool 4, Manchester United 0, we all are happy. And speaking of happy, this season is probably the happiest we have been in a long, long time in our lives. We are on the verge, on the cusp of something very special. We'll get to that in a bit. But before that, I want to introduce Josh, who joins us. And Josh, of course, is a part of the Anfield Wrap. Josh, thank you so much for taking time and doing this with us.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
Joseph, before we get started and talking about everything related to Liverpool, I just wanted to ask you, how many times in a day do you sing the new Jurgen Klopp song?
I think it's just on a constant loop in my head, to be honest. Like, I find like walking around the office at the moment, you'll catch somebody like humming it or whistling it or singing a few of the lines. And I tend to do that whenever I'm like walking to make cups of tea or whatever. So it's constantly there somewhere.
Exactly. It's the same with us, and I'm sure Nidhi will agree with that as well. But yeah, Nidhi.
Before that, I have another question I want to ask Josh, and this is something that I am very fascinated with. And when I went to Liverpool, I was very fascinated with the murals all over the city. Which one is your favorite?
I'd of course have to say the Anfield Wrap's Trent Alexander-Arnold one. That was one of the sort of originals that went up. But I think, you know, in terms of what it meant to us as Liverpool fans, to what it meant to Trent Alexander-Arnold, to see Trent lifting the European Cup and you know, fulfilling all our dreams, and that's of course what it said. What it says is that he's a local lad from Liverpool whose dreams just came true, and he's making our dreams come true now as well. And I'm so proud of Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's one of the footballers who, you know, as much as everybody on that Liverpool team deserves to be celebrated, but I particularly like that mural. Of course, I am biased though.
my favorite one is the one of Jurgen Klopp, because that's the only picture I have in Liverpool with a mural. So that's why it's my favorite. I'm biased as well. But let's get started about this season, Josh. It's a great time to be a Liverpool supporter. How is the mood in the city right now? We miss the city quite a lot because of COVID. We can't travel. But how's the mood right now?
It's a party atmosphere, to be honest. Like, every time you see another red in the street, every time you talk to somebody who's a Liverpool fan at the moment, you can't help but sort of, you know, smile at each other and be happy while having that conversation, because, you know, all the things we thought this Liverpool team could achieve, I don't think any of us fully expected this to be the current scenario that we're starting. You know, there's no team that's ever been this close to a quadruple within a season. So the fact that this Liverpool team, with these players we love, this manager we love, is on the cusp of being able to achieve that, you can't help but just smile and be happy. I'm sure if you met any Evertonians in the city, they probably wouldn't have quite the same mood though.
Exactly. Nidhi, speaking of Evertonians, right? I mean, next up we are up against Everton. It's the derby. Nidhi, how are you feeling about this one? Because, you know, it's a cliche, Nidhi, that form goes out of the window for a derby.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have ever taken on Everton in such circumstances, Nidhi.
I'm always a nervous wreck before any Liverpool game.
He's never given a prediction in his life ever. Like, he never gives predictions. Yeah,
that's just
no matter how many pints he has. Yeah,
right. And the thing is, this season with you know, the margin for error being so small, because, you know, we are going against Manchester City, who don't drop points, and, you know, it's always a tense affair. And derbies, look, I think we should win this game. But, you know, I am nervous as hell, man. I don't know. I really don't want Everton to come and spoil the party. I don't want them to be the team. Yeah. Absolutely not.
So, Josh, can you tell me how different is this derby?
In terms of the sort of history of it, or in terms of
the position? Like, Everton is fighting for survival. They're going for everything. Is it weird?
I think it is strange, yeah. Like, we're sort of used to Everton, you know, not being quite at the standard of Liverpool. I mean, I've lived through times where Everton were competing with Liverpool for top four places and finishing ahead of Liverpool in that top four race as well at times. But I think it's a strange one because you know exactly what you're going to get from Everton every single time. You know that Everton are going to fight. You know they're going to make it a dogged affair. You know they're going to try everything they can to take something away from Anfield or from Liverpool in general. Even when we go to Goodison Park, you're expecting a big atmosphere. You're expecting Everton players, their manager, their fans to be up for it. And I'm expecting much of the same thing. But obviously there's a huge gulf in quality at the moment. Probably the biggest gulf has ever been in terms of positions in the league and quality on the football pitch. So I'm expecting it to be a sort of strange affair in that sense. I'm not sure what to expect in terms of scorelines and that kind of thing, but I presume we'll come on to all of that. So I'll save those thoughts.
But Josh, is there any angst against the likes of Richarlison and a few others for what they've done over the last couple of seasons? Because who tackled Thiago? Was it
Richarlison?
It was Richarlison.
Richarlison. Yeah. And I remember Pickford doing what he did to Virgil van Dijk. Has that been forgotten?
I don't know if it's been forgotten. I'm sure that we as Liverpool fans will have longer memories in that sense than probably the players will. The players will sort of accept it to an extent is part of the job. It's obviously not what you want to see. You don't want to see people going into tackles and injuring other players, and that's the sort of thing. Yeah, you want the best players to be on the pitch at all times, and Liverpool was sort of we had that taken away from them last season. So I think in that sense, us fans probably won't forget that, and we'll hold our grudges against the likes of Pickford and Richarlison. But I'm sure the players, they're professionals. They'll get over those things quite quickly, and they'll also know that actually the best form of revenge is to keep beating them and keep them sort of in that relegation battle and keep us going towards Premier League title.
That's true. But Nidhi, do you think there's a bit of history between Klopp and Lampard at the touchline, right? Do you think that can happen again?
I don't think so. I think that was more of the Chelsea Lampard coming out, because all these years he didn't see us win anything, and then it was his team that we beat, and in that game we lifted the title. So I think there was a little bit of angst there. I don't see that happening. What about you, Josh? What are the chances of a row again between Klopp and Lampard?
I would say they're probably quite high, to be honest. I think they're two very outspoken managers. They're two managers who are prone to antics on the touchline, should we say. They're prone to making their voices heard on the touchline. I think Lampard will be looking for anything to get an edge in this game, whether that is on the touchline, whether that's something happening on the pitch and that kind of thing. He's going to want to sort of find all the little loopholes and small margins he can gain over Liverpool. But little does he know, I don't know if he was watching the Arsenal game earlier this season when Mikel Arteta repeated the same trick of trying to get under Jurgen Klopp's skin, and all it did was raise Anfield and cause Liverpool to go on and win the game. And I expect that if Lampard does the same, then it will get the same result.
Yeah, Klopp has the Anfield faithful with him this time. When he did that, there was nobody in the stadium.
Yeah, that was a safe space when he did it the last time around. But Josh, so on our channel, so we are a Liverpool-based channel, of course. Loads of people here in India are talking about the quadruple. Me and Nidhi, we always get freaking nervous, okay, whenever someone says that, because I've been supporting since 2001. Nidhi's the same era, so we're from the Gerard Houllier school of thought. So such things make us very nervous because we've seen our share of ups and downs. But at Anfield, I'm sure you go to loads of games yourself. Is the word used often by the locals who go to the games, or when someone says it, do people just shush them away, say, don't jinx it, don't say it?
I'm sure you get quite a good mix, to be honest. But I think one of the things that's become apparent, probably more so than ever this season, particularly given what's gone on with the pandemic and everything, it was really sort of palpable at Wembley. The idea that Liverpool fans just want to enjoy this at the moment. No one's getting too caught up in the end goal necessarily. Everyone's just excited by what this Liverpool side are producing. And as I said at the top of the show, the idea that Liverpool are basically making history at the moment because of the team who's gone the furthest into the season with a quadruple still on the line. It's I think in modern football we tend to focus so much on the winning and losing. So if you win something, then you're the winner, and if you don't do it, then you've lost it. Like if Liverpool don't win the quadruple this season, people are like, oh, Liverpool lost the quadruple, or Liverpool bottled the quadruple. But it's not even really that. Like you've got to be able to enjoy every single step of this and not try and go into it too much trepidation and worry too much about the results. It's there to be enjoyed, and that's the whole sort of part of the experience, particularly supporting this Liverpool side. They've made it such a joy to watch them, and the football has been so good to watch for so many years now. So look, if we do win the quadruple, then obviously it will be the best feeling in the world, and it will be just reward for how much these Liverpool players and this manager have given us over the years. But if we don't, then it's still some achievement to have got this far into the season with it all to play for.
It's funny because you mentioned the term bottle the quadruple. That in itself is ironic, right? When someone says someone bottled a quadruple, it's unheard of. That goes to show what levels we are playing at. Yeah, sorry, Nidhi, you wanted to...
And Josh, I wanted to ask you, and Manas will come to our conversation about it as well. But Josh, speaking of the quadruple, have you booked your accommodation in Paris just yet?
well, I'm lucky because of our work through the Anfield Wrap. We sort of get to be able to do these things as a team, so we can hang on till after the results. But if it was me on an individual basis now, like I've got some close personal friends who have already booked accommodation, have already booked their travel and those kind of things. And I think there'll be others who are scared of jinxing it, and I completely understand that. But the problem is that the prices go up so much as soon as Liverpool get through that you're almost better off getting in early and then hope that, with COVID and everything, there's free cancellations and that kind of thing that you can at least fall back on. Or if not, then maybe go and watch Villarreal in the Champions League final. I mean, obviously we hope it doesn't come to that, and we hope that Liverpool do get there, and I think we can be confident that we will too.
Is it true that some Liverpool supporters had already booked accommodation for Germany, thinking that they would take on Bayern Munich, and now they probably have to detour to Spain? Is that true, Josh? Have you heard any stories?
I mean, it's definitely true within the Anfield Wrap. We'd already booked a hotel in Munich because we were trying to sort of get ahead on that score. I mean, luckily, as I said before, it was free cancellation. But yeah, that's a little peek behind the curtain there at the Anfield Wrap, that we had booked a hotel at least. We didn't book any travel, but we booked a hotel in Munich. I know a few other people who got caught up by the same trick, just sort of assuming that it would be Bayern Munich we faced in the semi-finals. But what a story for Villarreal, by the way, to have beaten Bayern Munich, and they're going to be no mugs against Liverpool either. They're going to put up a great fight against Liverpool, but you just hope that Liverpool can sort of create the bigger story than what Villarreal can produce.
Yeah.
Let's hope we get there, because Manas and I have been talking for the longest time. Almost every day we check the flights to Paris. We obviously require a visa, so we keep telling each other, let's not jinx it. But what's the harm in just getting the visa and keeping that ready?
Yeah, but we would probably, we would certainly need a visa if you have to go to Wembley. And Josh, I'm assuming this is the third time this season you are going to Wembley as well. How are we looking forward to the game against Chelsea? Because we've had 2 draws, actually 3 draws, if you take the League Cup final as well, which went into penalties. The third game that we played against Manchester City, we ended up winning in normal time. How are you feeling about this final? Because there's something about Chelsea which always makes me nervous. Maybe it's just the 13-14 season which adds to the anxiety of things. But do you see them having a bit of blip right now in form, because they lost against Arsenal? A few things have not been going for them well.
Yeah, it's a strange situation I think Chelsea find themselves in, because there's obviously a lot going on off the pitch as well, and you sort of saw it in the scenes last night after they lost to Arsenal, that one of the fans was voicing his frustration, and the captain Azpilicueta's going up to him, and they're sort of having a bit of an argument. Although I think the fan backed down quite quickly as soon as they saw how angry the captain was. But I think they're in quite a funny situation right now. But I think we still have every right to treat them with complete respect and worry about what they can produce, because they're still a great football team, and Thomas Tuchel is still a great football coach as well. And I fully expect them to give Liverpool a hard time at Wembley. You've mentioned the sort of 3 draws we've had against them already, and it's going to be a game which comes down to fine margins, and that game came down to fine margins. And obviously there's been this narrative about Liverpool playing a high line this season, and particularly in that game it was apparent because Chelsea had a couple of times the ball in the back of the net, and then it got flagged for offside. But I'm expecting Liverpool to sort of have too much quality for them, or I hope Liverpool will have too much quality for them. But again, it'll be a game that comes down to fine margins, and it may just be that Liverpool have to do it on penalties again, and maybe we'll have to sub Quivine Kelleher on for his penalty in the same way that Chelsea sub Kepa on.
I mean, listen, that final was just too much But at the end of the day, when you hear Dua Lipa at the end of any final, it can only mean good one thing, which is that we have won. So I mean, if at the end of it all it means we listen to One Kiss is all it takes, I'm happy, Nidhi.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the run-in and finals and everything, Josh. Now we've seen a very different Sadio Mane from the time that he's come back from the AFCON. He helped Senegal qualify for the World Cup as well. Uh, who do you think, there are potentially 10 to 11 games remaining in the season? Um, who do you think is going to be the most important player for us?
I think I'm gonna just give my opinion before Luis
Go on.
Diaz. For me, he's the X factor. Josh, go for it.
I was going to not name any of the forwards, to be honest. I think you saw the other night Thiago Alcantara's performance against Manchester United, how crucial he can be for this Liverpool side and how much swagger he can make this Liverpool side play with as well. And it's not even, I think there was a bit of a thing when we used to have the front three as it was when it was Sadio Mane, Mo Salah and Bobby Firmino, and for half of that season Philip Coutinho as well. And I think it's quite easy to forget about that spell from sort of August to January where we had Philip Coutinho still, and before Philip Coutinho left and the circumstances around that there was a few times where Liverpool would just absolutely batter teams. I remember us winning 7-0 away at Maribor. I remember us winning 7-0 at home to Spartak Moscow. There was just a few huge results in there where, you got to see how good that front three was, but you had that bit of flair behind it as well, and that bit of creativity. And that was obviously what Philip Coutinho brought to this Liverpool team. But we've got a player in Thiago now who brings that, but equally brings steel. I thought one of the most impressive things about his performance against Manchester United the other night was the timing of his tackles and the way he wins the ball back and the situations he wins the ball back in, and how much that allows Liverpool to counter attack from that point. I think keeping him fit, and Klopp said it himself as well, is going to be absolutely crucial for whatever Liverpool want to achieve and whatever Liverpool can achieve heading into the back end of the season. I think the forwards will all sort of take care of themselves to an extent. I think you'll see spells now where Sadio Mane will score goals in games, Bobby Firmino will score goals in games, Salah will score goals in games, Diaz, Jota. But there's going to be more consistency behind them, or need to be more consistency behind them in terms of performance. And you're obviously always going to get that in terms of Jordan Henderson and Fabinho, the base level they're going to give. But if we can keep Thiago fit and keep Thiago in that sort of rich vein of form, then the sky is absolutely the limit for this Liverpool team.
Yeah, the sky certainly.
My answer for that is slightly different, and it's a player that has been the difference maker for us throughout the season. Everybody, but Alisson is going to be very, very important, because there have been so many moments throughout the season where he's kept us in the mix. According to me, along with Salah, he might just be our player of the season.
I always, whenever I think about this season, guys, I always am reminded of Nat Phillips, Reece Williams, and obviously that header of Alisson. We wouldn't be in this position. I seriously feel, I mean, what a guy, what a man, and what a moment to score that goal. I mean, and the way he celebrated, his dad had passed away recently. So it was very emotional. And I think that was the only game that Firmino was captaining us, or probably the first time he capped. So, I mean, it was meant to be a Brazilian doing it for us. Josh, we'll take a few tweets that have come in for you. So if you don't mind, we'll get started. Ritvik has asked a very simple, straightforward question. Favorite individual performance of the season?
I think it would almost feel like cheating to say that it would be Thiago's against Manchester United tonight. It was. I should start and sort of comment on that first, because being in Anfield for that performance and hearing people who've been going to the game. But one of my friends' dads who's had a season ticket for sort of like 40 years. He's getting on towards 60 years old, and he said it's the best individual performance he's seen at Anfield. It was genuinely that good in terms of the level that Thiago set. I think if I was to go for another one, because that would sort of feel a bit like recency bias to go for that one, there's a couple of really, really big Sadio Mane ones in there. I think of the League Cup final, even though that he didn't score in that League Cup final necessarily. The League Cup final, I thought Sadio Mane sort of showed how the way forward for him as a number 9. I think it's not a position we necessarily expected him to, get much of an opportunity in order to excel in, and it obviously gives us a problem because we already have Diogo Jota, who's probably best through the centre, Bobby Firmino, who's definitely best through the centre, even Origi and Minamino, if you want to throw those two in there, probably both best through the centre. So to have a guy who is good on the right, good on the left, but then maybe even better through the centre is a problem to have, isn't it, for Jurgen Klopp? A good problem to have, of course. But Sadio Mane for me has been one of my favourite players to watch this season. Some of the goals he's scored, some of the performances that he's put in. I don't know if I could think of a specific one necessarily, because or every time I keep thinking about a specific one, I just think about Thiago against Manchester United again. So I'll probably go for an honourable mention, therefore, to Sadio Mane and some of the performances he's put in this season, because he's been absolutely incredible.
I think we've put you on the spot here because that was a tough question. So if later on you think of something, you can comment in the video later on if you see it on YouTube.
Don't worry at all.
So the next question is Tactically Obsessed has asked you. This is something which me and Nidhi talk about a lot with our live streams. Our best midfield combination according to you, Josh?
It's tough, really, because I think Jurgen Klopp has given himself the opportunity this season to go, as a bit of an expression in English, is to go horses for courses, which means sort of, picking players that suit the opposition that you're playing against. So I don't necessarily believe in the idea of a strongest midfield combination or a strongest 11 for Liverpool at the moment, because I think Liverpool have so many good options that genuinely it would depend on who they're facing, who I think is the best to go for. My favourite, I have to say, is the three that started the other night, is Henderson, Fabinho, and Thiago, just because I feel like all three give you so many different sort of aspects of football when they're playing on the pitch. I think Jordan Henderson gives you that leadership and that leading by example and that drive and that determination. Fabinho gives you the breaking up of play. He gives you a range of passing. He gives you just his legs and his limbs. To be honest, like the way that Fabinho can win the ball back with his sort of length is absolutely incredible. And then Thiago, I've already said, he gives you that creativity, that flair, but also a lot of that steel as well. But I have to give a shout out to Naby Keita, because I think Keita has been so good recently, and I don't begrudge anybody who thinks that he should be displacing any one of those three. Probably not Fabinho, but if someone was making a case for him displacing Thiago or Jordan Henderson, then I would say absolutely fair enough, because I think all four of them are absolutely on fire at the moment.
Satvik has asked, Nidhi, I want your take first on it, and then Josh we'll give Josh a breather. He's been speaking quite a lot. Nidhi, Satvik has asked, what lies ahead for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain? I think transfer. I think that's.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that he has been great for us and also unfortunate in equal measure, because he obviously came in and he's won a lot at this club. Let's be honest. He's won the Premier League. He's won the Champions League. He's played a part in a lot of important games for us. Even when we finished second, he was the one.
Not recently, right? But
no. But even last season when we finished, went away to Burnley, he was the one to score. So he not as much as we would like to, but I think as sad as it is, I think his time as a Liverpool player is coming to an end. I honestly don't see him staying beyond this season. But of course, I mean, he's been very good for us, and I wish him all the luck.
Josh, I mean, especially, the emergence of Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, and probably Carvalho, who will be signed in the summer. I mean, it looks like it's a done deal. It looks like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is on his way out.
I think it's a strange one, really, because Liverpool don't tend to sort of force players out against their will necessarily. Apart from the early days of Jurgen Klopp, when he was still building the squad, you don't really see many players who leave in that time who genuinely wanted to stay at Liverpool in sort of recent years. Maybe Loris Karius aside, but obviously there's massive sort of ulterior circumstances around that, given his performances in Kiev and subsequent performances after that. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain, if he genuinely wanted to stay at Liverpool and fight for his place, I think Jurgen Klopp wouldn't begrudge him that. Jurgen Klopp would say you can absolutely stay at Liverpool and fight for your place, because Jurgen Klopp would be more than happy to have him as an option. And I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain would go into that knowing that there's going to be times where he's not in the squad, there's going to be times where he has to settle for a place on the bench, or he's going to have to take his opportunities when they come to him. And I think he will know that well at the moment as well. I think you see Oxlade-Chamberlain get subbed off a lot and looking a bit frustrated and cutting a frustrated figure, and I think that feeds into the mindset of how happy people think he is at Liverpool at the moment. But I think in those moments he'll be just as frustrated with himself as he will be with being taken off by the manager or by the manager's decisions, or he could even be frustrated by his luck, as Nidhi said before, because he has had bad luck at Liverpool, and that's it's not just luck with his own injuries, it's luck in terms of players who've come in and their opportunities to impress and then taking them in their form and that kind of thing. There's all sorts of different circumstances to it. It's interesting though, Menace, you were saying that you don't think there's times recently where he's contributed. I think it's quite easy to forget that, when Mane and Salah went away for the AFCON, Oxlade-Chamberlain was playing on the right of a front three and scored some crucial goals during that time as well. So he still can make a contribution to Liverpool, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did stay beyond the season and was able to make contributions next season when there's things shifting and shaping and things like that. But I think if for his own career and his own ambitions, if he's happy to stay at Liverpool and fight for his place and win trophies, then absolutely fair enough. But if he wants to go somewhere and be the main man and be on big minutes, then I think Liverpool can't really stand in his way.
That being said, Josh, see, because we've been winning. So, and I am the most happiest that I've ever been as a Liverpool supporter. But we've seen a similar probably situation with Gini and Emre Can more recently, where the contracts run out. And do you think that could be taken into consideration at all when it comes to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain? Or do you think we are so secure financially right now, the club is so well run at the moment, that we don't need to think about the 10 odd million that we could get off Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain?
I think Liverpool in most cases seem to be happy to let these players run the contracts down. The only sort of thing I would say is the Emre Can situation. I think was really strange, because it seems from all the whispers that were coming out of the club at the time that he was asking to be the highest paid player, and Liverpool just weren't willing to meet those demands. I think the Gini Wijnaldum one is different because he was one of the older players in the squad, and he was asking to basically have the rest of his career secured at Liverpool, and Liverpool didn't feel like they could offer him that on the terms he wanted, and Liverpool had got such a good return out of Gini Wijnaldum on terms that were basically not representative of his ability as a player and everything he gave to Liverpool. They were sort of lower terms than that, and Oxlade-Chamberlain I think will be slightly different to those two, because he's at an age where he's not towards the end of his career. He's still sort of 26, 27 in that sort of age bracket where he should be hitting his sort of peak years at the moment. So that will be taken into consideration. And I imagine his current wage will be taken into consideration as well. But I could see a scenario in which I think his contract's up in 2023. So I could see a scenario in which Liverpool said to him, look, we could try and sell you this summer and we'll be able to recoup a fee for you. But what we'd really rather you did is, given how many trophies we've won this season, whatever that ends up being, we want to go for that again next season. We want to be winning the Champions League. We want you to have all of that on your CV. We'll give you some opportunities here and there. If you're happy to accept that and happy to be, a crucial part of this squad and this dressing room, then we're more than happy for you to stay and let you leave on a free next summer.
Josh, one question I had, and since we're talking about contracts and everything, and it's a very tough question. I personally do not like it, but the classic front three, Salah, Mane, Firmino. Do you think we are offering contracts to all three of them?
I'd like to think so, yeah. I mean, Mo Salah is obviously the one that everyone wants to see get done, including Mo Salah himself. He's been very outspoken on that matter. I think with Firmino it's slightly different, because he would probably have to accept a reduced role, if not a reduced salary. He would have to understand that they've got Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz coming through, who's potential they'll want to prioritise, whose sort of progress they'll want to prioritise. And if Firmino was to stay, I don't imagine they'll be tying him down for sort of multi-year contracts. It will be a year or two here and there, and it might sort of see him through to the end of his career. We'd all love to see Firmino, Mane and Salah all finish their careers at Liverpool, of course, because we all still think they have so much to offer. But I suppose we're not the ones writing the checks, because if we were, I think there'd be some big wages flying around that training ground, that's for sure.
Yeah, if we win, I'm sure everyone will be open to probably taking a contract a bit lower than what they're demanding. If we just keep on winning, let's just hope that everyone signs a new deal. The front three, we love Bobby, we love Mane, we love Salah. Just one last question from Twitter we're taking. Potentially, Tanay asks, fixtures where you think City could drop points. Now, see, I don't know the entire City fixture list. Of course, I know who we are playing, but yesterday they were up against Brighton, and I saw the game till halftime, and then I switched it off. See, so the time difference here is a lot, Josh. So like those games start at 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. The late night fixtures, and I can't see City. I get very nervous, especially nowadays. I can only watch ourselves. So yeah, the 3-0 happened. Next up, they're against Watford. I know that. They play before us. Nidhi, now it is just a chess contest, chess match. I mean, another season where we will sure get 90 plus points, I think.
Yeah.
But do you think, Nidhi, that it might not be enough at the end of the day?
It is very much possible. I mean, look, if you look at City, it's weird because if you look at them play, you'd think these guys are not going to drop any points. But January onwards, they have dropped points. They have certainly dropped more points than us. I think the most important thing that at least I can hope for is that we win all our remaining games. That's the most important thing. There are a couple of games. Honestly, I was thinking Brighton, but then as soon as I saw the lineup, I was like, no, it's not happening today. Newcastle could be a tricky one, and Wolves could be a tricky one. These two games, I think, could be a little.
What about last day of the season?
That's yeah, that would be.
Josh, what do you think? What do you think?
I think we're living more out of hope than expectation, aren't we? I think there's a few Liverpool fans who have got their eyes on a couple of fixtures. I know Brighton was one for a lot of Liverpool fans, probably because of the fact that Brighton are quite likeable. There's the Adam Lallana connection and that kind of thing. I think they'd have been a team that would have all been happy to have beaten City, and then hopefully we can sort of stay in front from there. It wasn't to be, of course. I was the same as you, Menace. I only watched till half time, and then felt responsible for the final result, given that they scored all three of their goals in the second half. I know people are sort of saying West Ham and Leeds could be two of the tougher games. I think this is where, for me, it becomes more about hope than expectation. I think, as Nidhi says, Liverpool have to just focus on what they can do for now, and what Liverpool can do is to try and win every single game until the end of the season, and hope that somewhere along the way City just throw one in, all it has to be is a draw. That's the thing. They don't even have to lose. All they have to do is just drop points. And if Liverpool can keep winning, then they can sort of go from there. I've got this like weird scenario in my head where we both keep winning till the end of the season. Liverpool fans are sort of ready to give up on hope, and then on the last day, whoever City have on the last day, I think it's Aston Villa, isn't it? Actually, Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa.
Last day of the season.
And then something happens on that day. I think that's just like the fairy tale probably ending for me, because I've seen City do it to Manchester United, and it looks like a lot of fun. I don't know how much fun it would be in the meantime on our hearts and on our minds. I think it would weigh quite heavy and probably put a few years on all of us. But I think at this point, just hoping City drop points, and if you're hoping, then that can come from any team, because the Premier League is of such high quality. But I think expecting any of those teams to beat City, there's a couple of teams in there who you wouldn't expect to be beating us either. So I think it would just be hope as much as expectation from now on.
I mean, if we lose not lose, it's not the correct term. We can't lose the league if we get so many points. If we are unable to win the league because of that handball against Rodri at Goodison, which was not given, I will just be so pissed for a considerable amount of time. But anyway, let's not be negative. Let's be positive, because we got so much to look forward to. Nidhi, you had a special question for Josh, right?
I mean, first of all, Josh, this was absolutely brilliant. I mean, first of all, thank you for making the time for being on Menace and the Monk with us. Just last question before we close this. This Liverpool team, do you think this ranks up there with the best Premier League teams or the squads of all time?
I think absolutely, yeah. I think you've seen it as a sustained period of success for this Liverpool team. Now, obviously, last season feels like the sort of blip, and I think we've managed to put it all out of our minds now that you're seeing what Liverpool could go on to achieve this season. But I think, it has to be. It's one of the best squads that I've seen in my lifetime, if not the best squad I've seen in my lifetime. It's the best Liverpool team I've seen in my lifetime. I know there's people far older than me who are saying the same thing. So I think if you're looking at all-time Premier League squads, all-time Premier League 11s, then this Liverpool team absolutely has to be up there just for the standards they've been setting. They're unfortunate, I think, that it's at an era where Manchester City are displaying so much dominance as well, and they've got such a great team, such a great squad, such a great manager, because that's what Pep Guardiola is. But Liverpool have demanded higher levels out of Manchester City as well, and vice versa. So I think we'll look back on this period between these two teams and just I suppose applaud both of them, because it's been an unbelievable few years of challenging each other. You just hope that this time Liverpool can come out on top again.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word unbelievable. Before we end this, Josh, for sure, the last question. I saw you, I mean, of course, I've seen your profile quite a lot of times, and you are interviewing Divock Origi, and the man, the myth, the legend is all but certain to leave the club. Just your favorite Divock Origi moment. We've actually done a video on Divock Origi as well. So which is your favorite Origi moment?
It's funny because I got the opportunity to interview him on the club's pre-season tour in America in 2019, which just after Liverpool had won the Champions League. And going into that interview, I wanted to ask him where we should put the statue. I wanted to ask him what his favourite moment was. And when I was asking that, I was fully expecting him to say the Champions League final. But funnily enough, he said his goal against Everton in the 96th minute, because he knew how much it meant to this club and this city. And I think that's a measure of the man. That's a measure of who Divock Origi is that he's not thinking of goals for his own sort of personal achievements and accomplishments, and even the team and the medals that the team would win, he was thinking of the fans and what means the most to the fans. And of course the goal in the Champions League final meant so much to us, because it was the goal that secured that 6th European Cup, and that for me would be my favourite Divock Origi moment, because I was in Madrid, I was behind the goal for that. I cried until I could cry no more after Divock Origi had put that goal in. Watching Jordan Henderson in the celebrations, watching all of them celebrating, and knowing that came off a moment of Divock Origi magic. But I'd obviously, of course, have to agree with the big man himself that 96-minute goal against Everton, it hardly gets better than that. And I would like one more piece of Divock Origi magic before he leaves. So if by any chance he's listening to this podcast, or if someone can pass the message on to Divock Origi or to Jurgen Klopp to make sure that he gets on the pitch on Sunday, even if we want to keep the score 0-0 until he comes on into injury time, and then him get that goal, then that would be a surreal moment.
For all you know, Josh, for all you know, the goal against Wolves might be the moment.
It could. We hope for one more. We hope for a few more, Divock.
Yeah. Josh, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this. It's always a pleasure to speak with you guys, and we really appreciate you taking out time, and hopefully we'll see you in Paris, Josh.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, guys, and I'm sure we will see each other in Paris or at Wembley. Get those visas sorted, though, guys.
only if our employers let us get a few leaves. But thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Reds, take care. Bye bye.
I'm so glad